Alright, so this is just a trigger warning for anyone who is sensitive to suicide and major character death, as well as grief to the point of suicide. If those things make you upset or uncomfortable, you should skip this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Roman woke up and rubbed his eyes. It was the middle of the night, and he had a headache. He didn't know why exactly he was, but he was wide awake nonetheless. The 20-year-old turned on a fan to combat the humid room and left to grab a glass of water. He lived alone in between years of college, opening a window and gratefully feeling the breeze on his face, somehow cooler than within his dorm, despite the warm summer night. Roman now felt mostly awake, so he watched the traffic from his high-up window. It's still bustling in a big city such as this. His phone buzzed a bit into admiring the view, surprising the young adult because of how late it was. Almost 4 a.m., a majority of the people he knew had classes in the morning, just like himself. Virgil was calling him for some reason. God, he thought, I really need him to get to sleep more. The man answered with a playful, You should be asleep, young man. They often joked like that. He gained a light chuckle in return. Virgil sounded tired. Hey to you too, your majesty, he simply greeted back. Not exhausted, just tired. How are you? Virgil asked. His voice was light and hoarse, uncharacteristically so. Is this really what this is about? Roman questioned internally. You know I'll see you at school later, he reminded with a smile on his face. I know, I just wanted to know, all right? The younger snapped back in a playful tone. Roman shook his head once more, contemplating going over to his boyfriend's dorm and giving him some good old chloroform. Why are you up this late? He sighed. You have trig in a few hours. There was silence for a bit too long. I'm not going to class today, the dark presence finally stated flatly. Roman was about to remind him not to skip so much if he didn't want to be expelled, but that thought was cut off by the younger changing the subject. You never answered my question, he pressed. I just wanted to hear your voice, if I'm being completely honest. Roman's face became one more of concern. Is everything okay? Do you want me to come over? Virgil sighed loudly into the receiver. I'm not in my dorm, was all he answered. The taller man was confused. Where would he be at this hour? I don't understand. What is this about? The older started before Virgil spoke once more. Remember that tree by the school we used to always run away to and hide from Logan in? Of course I do, Roman smiled at the thought of the fawn plant. You named it and everything. They both chuckled in sync for a moment. The tree was an old weeping willow the two had found, the many hanging branches perfect cover for them to hide from their responsibilities for a while, especially homework. Roman sighed and looked at the clear sky. It really was a beautiful night. But, the younger man started. I'm not doing too good. No? Roman asked in a soft voice, becoming a bit more concerned. Yeah, the younger simply responded. I just wish I could see it again. The prince stood up to shrug on a shirt, now with a new objective for the night. Yeah, babe, of course. Let's go right now. He grabbed his keys and was about to open his front door when Virgil spoke again, his tone still light, but the undertone that confused his boyfriend. That's okay. Just promise to bury me there. Wait, what? V, what are you talking about? I love you. The line went dead. V? Virgil! Roman looked at his phone and tried calling again, and again, and again. He never got an answer to any of his calls or texts. He called everyone. Patton, Logan, the police, anyone who may have been able to get a hold of his boyfriend. No luck. He even spent the rest of the night searching aimlessly, having no idea where to look. A swarm of emotions were going through his head the entire time, and the fear of what that phone call could have meant kept growing and growing in his mind until the paranoia was too much for him to bear. The man tried to have high hopes over the last few days of waiting, tried to focus on his classes, and tell himself that Virgil was okay and safe. But those hopes were broken when they found his body, floating in a man-made pond. He had drowned to death. There was nothing Roman could do. He was gone. Roman stared at the ground. He hadn't spoken for the last 3 days. Not to anyone. You can't really blame him. The day he learned the man he loved was dead was the worst of his life. His brother was quite worried for him, scared that he may never talk again, or worse, follow his lost love. Remus was determined not to let the latter happen, under any circumstances. He placed a hand on his brother's shoulder, both in dark suits for the funeral ceremony that had just concluded. Janice was there close by as well, mentally shut down, much like Roman. He'd lost his only remaining family. Roman only made any form of communication with Remus and Janice. Everyone else was ignored. The three also tended to gravitate together, wanting only each other's company for the time being. Patton and Logan had stopped trying to talk to Roman a while ago, but still kept watch over him in the very fragile state he was in. The three young adults stayed together for a few days through their grief. For that time, it felt they only had each other. Roman visited the gravestone every day the rest of that week, pained that he returned to school, which made an everyday visit impossible. But life goes on. It didn't feel that way for Roman, though. There wasn't any passion in anything he did anymore. Everything he made was just empty. He considered dropping out constantly. The motivation to build a life he dreamed of creating for him and his partner was now impossible. He felt pain. Everything was just pain now. He couldn't concentrate. He wouldn't even eat without being reminded. Being late and skipping classes more and more often became more constant due to growing difficulty finding reasons to get up in the morning. Not much mattered to him anymore. He didn't have a reason to fight anymore. He didn't have a reason to really do anything anymore. The man tried to be there for Janice, who was also having great difficulty, the best he could. He tried to believe his brother's words when he said that they would be okay. He really did, but it was hard. His reason for living was gone. How could everyone else be so okay? Virgil was gone. Does no one else care? He found himself getting more and more easily irritable. When he wasn't sad, he was angry. Just angry at anything, really. And Roman started to realize that this was starting to unhealthily get out of control. Roman looked out over the railing at the dark water below. This is where it had happened. This was the last place he had talked to him. On a warm night, much like this one, the man felt himself scowl at the water that had swallowed the life from his partner. 30 stories into water. Unsurvivable. But of course Virgil must have known that. He'd spent so much time up here. Perhaps he just liked to hide in high-up places. The man wondered how long he'd been planning this. How many times his boyfriend sat up here knowing the water would be the one to steal his last breath. A tear rolled down Roman's face. The first few days he'd screamed in agony, in denial that it could be real. "No!" he cried. "No, he can't be gone!" But it was real. He wasn't coming back. I miss you," he sighed towards the dark water. "Why did you leave? Why didn't you come to me?" He laughed through more tears that slipped from his eyes, continuing to stare into the black ripples. It's only fair if I go the same way, right? I know what you'd say, but you can't tell me not to. So I'll finally do something about it. I'm tired of waiting for nothing." The man's smile grew after climbing over the guardrail. "I'll see you soon. I promise." He held onto the rail and mentally apologized to Remus for leaving as well. He'd be okay. He and Janice had each other. The grin never faltered from Roman's face. He was so close to seeing Virgil again. Was there hesitation? Not really. The part of him had left a long time ago. The prince finally stepped off, ready to be reunited with the one he desperately loved.